My name is Avery, and at 62, I find myself in a new chapter of life. Once a dedicated housewife, I now navigate a more modest existence following the sudden passing of my husband 2 years ago. Left with the responsibility of managing the finances he left behind, I've adjusted to solitude, my two sons now grown and married. When my eldest Henry tied the knot, he and his wife, Rhea, extended a generous offer to share their home with me. Grateful for their concern yet adamant about maintaining my independence, I politely declined. But Henry's insistence was unwavering, citing his reluctance to leave me alone. And so, against my initial reservations, we became housemates. Rhea, a mere 23 years old, entered my life as my daughter-in-law. Though her youth initially concerned me, I trusted Henry's judgment. Upon our decision to cohabit, I sought reassurance from Henry regarding Rhea's feelings. His affirmation of her kindness and willingness to help around the house put my mind at ease. Yet, amidst our shared living arrangement, a minor incident brought forth a twinge of concern. Needing assistance with household tasks one day, I approached Rhea while I embarked on errands. However, preoccupied with her phone, she declined, citing business. Though unaccustomed to such reluctance, I chose to remain silent, preferring to maintain harmony over confrontation. That particular day, witnessing Rhea engrossed in her game, I mustered a firmer tone, requesting her assistance with chores before indulging in leisure. With evident annoyance, she grumbled about constant nagging and suggested a fair share of responsibilities among us. Despite her reluctance, she begrudgingly attended to the laundry, shooting me a glare that caught me off guard. Opting against escalating the tension, I left the house as it stood. Following that altercation, Rhea's attitude took a turn for the worse, manifesting in daily acts of disregard. Her discontent extended to my cooking, prompting her to urge Henry for dining out, leaving me behind. Though Henry attempted to mediate, reminding Rhea of my efforts, his allegiance often swayed with her mood, leaving me with apologies rather than resolutions. Requests for assistance with household chores were met with criticism instead of cooperation, further compounded by Rhea's belief in my supposed idleness. Despite my contributions to Henry's expenses and managing the apartment, I found myself unjustly labeled as dependent. Rhea's perception of superiority, stemming from her role as Henry's provider, clouded any recognition of my financial contributions. An ordinary act like vacuuming became a source of contention when Rhea berated me for noise, venting her frustrations to an unseen listener. Feeling exasperated, I confided in Henry upon his return, highlighting my frustration with Rhea's lack of involvement in household duties and her unjust criticism. I stressed the importance of sharing household responsibilities, especially when complaints arose, as I couldn't manage everything alone. While Henry apologized and promised to address the issue with Rhea, his response left me feeling uncertain about the seriousness of the matter. Nevertheless, I opted to wait, hoping for a change without further confrontation. However, 6 months passed, and Rhea's attitude remained unchanged, leaving me utterly exhausted from shouldering the burden of household duties alone, despite my efforts to accommodate her. Around that time, Lucas brought up my upcoming birthday, suggesting an early celebration since my eldest son and his wife would likely be occupied on the actual day. Renly, Lucas's wife, had a thoughtful present for me, and they graciously invited me to dinner at their place, a short journey away. Despite our infrequent meetings, Renly's kindness made the invitation all the more special, and I eagerly accepted. After preparing dinner for Henry and Rhea, I joined Lucas and his family for the celebration. They had arranged for us to dine at my favorite restaurant and presented me with flowers and a gift bag, making it a truly delightful evening. Overwhelmed with happiness, I couldn't help but express how rejuvenating the experience was, remarking, "Ah, this is so healing. I haven't felt this happy in a long time." Lucas, sensing a hint of sadness beneath my words, gently inquired if everything was all right with Henry. Although I hadn't intended to burden them with my troubles, I found solace in confiding in them about my struggles. How I bore the brunt of household chores due to Ria's reluctance to help and endured her harsh words. After a heartfelt discussion with Renly, Lucas reassured me that I didn't have to endure such hardships, reminding me of the financial stability provided by the stocks and apartment rents left by my husband. He reiterated that my living arrangement with Henry was solely his choice and offered their home as a refuge if I ever felt lonely or overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with gratitude for the support of my family, I resolved to persevere a little longer, knowing I had allies by my side. Expressing my heartfelt appreciation, I assured them, "Thank you, but I'll put in a bit more effort. They're my precious family." Returning home that evening, I noticed the dishes they had used still sitting in the sink. With a resigned sigh, I considered taking care of them myself, but opted to leave them for Henry and Rhea to address in the morning. The following day, while preparing breakfast, I politely asked Rhea to wash the dishes she had used the previous day. However, she disregarded my request, engrossed in her phone on the couch. Unable to contain my frustration at Rhea's dismissive attitude, I raised my voice, reminding her of the basic courtesy of cleaning up after oneself. In response, Rhea shifted the responsibility onto me, citing the adage, "He who does not work neither shall he eat." Henry, overhearing our exchange, appeared puzzled and sought clarification. I explained that I had simply requested Rhea to attend to the dishes they had used. Despite Henry's attempts to intervene and help, Rhea insisted that it was my duty, dismissing my efforts and labeling me a burden. Frustration bubbling to the surface, I couldn't suppress my emotions any longer, expressing the overwhelming strain of shouldering all household responsibilities, including Henry's share. Henry, realizing the gravity of the situation, apologized and offered assistance, but Rhea adamantly rejected his help, exacerbating the tension by demanding that I vacate the apartment. Reaching my breaking point, I questioned Rhea's assertion, asserting my right to remain in my own home. Turning to Henry, I laid bare my true sentiments, imploring him to understand the untenable situation. "Rhea may be misunderstanding something, but you grasp the truth, don't you, Henry? The ones who must leave are you too. I cannot endure this living arrangement any longer." Having reached my limit, I made my stance clear. Rhea, visibly taken aback, questioned my statement, unable to comprehend how a supposedly jobless mother-in-law could afford a residence. Patiently, I clarified that I am not a tenant. Rather, I am the landlord of this very apartment. Through diligent management of the assets left by Henry's father, including stocks, properties, and land, I sustained myself independently, without relying on Henry's financial support. Even after we began living together, I shouldered the majority of utility and grocery expenses. Rhea's shock was palpable as she turned to Henry for confirmation. Further elaborating, I highlighted the impracticality of Henry single-handedly managing both her desires and the complexities of my life. I emphasized that despite his best intentions, his income alone couldn't sustain such demands. It was evident that Rhea grasped the gravity of the situation as her face drained of color, prompting hurried apologies. They both expressed remorse in a flurry of apologies, acknowledging their ignorance and the hurtful nature of their words. While acknowledging our familial bond and their remorse, I made it clear that continuing to live together was untenable. I proposed that they seek a separate residence, allowing us to address this issue while maintaining our relationship. Henry, fraught with concern about leaving me alone, pledged to assist with household chores moving forward. However, I reassured him of my well-being, mentioning Lucas and his family's offer to provide support if needed. Initially, I had entertained the notion of persevering a little longer, but the current situation had made it abundantly clear that a change was imperative. I explained to Henry my decision to reside closer to Lucas and his family, a choice he eventually accepted with understanding. Rhea, however, resorted to accusatory tones, blaming me for what she perceived as abandonment. Recognizing the futility of further discourse, I chose silence, understanding that some sentiments are better left unchallenged. Within a month of our discussion, Henry and Rhea secured a new residence and relocated. However, constrained by rental costs, their options were limited to an aging, compact apartment. Ria, unaccustomed to employment, began a part-time job to supplement their finances, albeit with visible strain. Henry confided in me, revealing the constant friction plaguing their domestic life as Ria struggled to balance work and household responsibilities. Henry himself appeared weary, drained by the incessant conflicts. Despite their departure, Henry persisted in his pleas for reconciliation, expressing a desire to resume cohabitation with me. However, I remained resolute, having no intention of revisiting the tumultuous dynamics of our previous arrangement. Following their departure, I found solace in residing with Lucas and his family. Despite my insistence that they needn't inconvenience themselves, Lucas insisted that my presence enriched their lives. He revealed his mother's earnest desire to learn from me, particularly in the culinary arts, which ultimately led to our decision to live together. Since then, Lucas and his family have made it abundantly clear that my comfort and happiness are their utmost priorities. They've encouraged open communication, assuring me that any grievances will be addressed promptly and without hesitation. Together, we've fostered an environment of mutual respect and consideration, ensuring that we do not impose on each other unnecessarily. My days are now filled with joy as I cook alongside Renly and indulge in my hobbies, relishing in the fulfillment of each moment. Presently, I find myself content and at peace, determined to safeguard this newfound happiness moving forward. As I look to the future, my sole aspiration is to continue living in a manner that nurtures and preserves this profound sense of joy and contentment.